Welcome to the Ruffells Ad Break, the first of the Ruffells Roughcasts. I'm Tim McInnes, Managing Director. In this podcast, we dig into how the creatives we work with get the most out of every brief to deliver best results for you. At Ruffells, we're all about the people, and when we're working with best in breed, it's easy to get great results. When the majority of our effective brain time is spent at work, we reckon you might as well enjoy the ride too. And joining us this episode is photographer, down-to-earth, all-round nice guy, Dave Richards. Originally from Central Australia, but now a resident in Christchurch. He's got maybe the most out-of-date websites and social channels, but we reckon that while he's not doing a good job of advertising himself, it's because he's always busy, and that speaks volumes. In this episode, we don't talk about how Dave's band once had an album produced by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, because he didn't tell me about that until after recording, but we do talk about photographing you two as a teenager, why everything is a team effort, and why having nerves is a positive. Less from me, more from Dave.
Oh,
Ruffells Ad Break.
Yeah, that was good.
Ruffells Ad Break.
You've come to Christchurch.
Mm-hmm.
You're a photographer, as we know you.
Yep.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you got here?
Yeah, okay.
It's not been a linear path.
No, not getting into photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because you've had a life before that as well.
Yeah, I have. What it is for me, at school, we had work experience when I was about 14, and I hadn't really booked anything at the last minute, and I wanted to be a journalist, which why would I want to be a journalist? And I rang our local newspaper and they said, oh, we're really sorry, all the positions have gone, but we've got a photographer here you can go out with. And I thought, oh, that sounds okay, but maybe I can do something with the journalists and see what that would be like. Did it for about a week and then was like, I don't want to go back to school. I did, but I had I think I had another 2 weeks back at school before the school holidays started. So I said to the newspaper, would I be able to work for 8 weeks during the school holidays, learn everything? Ended up with a job that was working weekends and things like that, had really weird opportunities. I got to photograph you too and think in Melbourne and things like that just as a result of it. So it was quite good at the age of 14.
Hold on. How does that happen?
Just through taking photographs and offering to help out and things like that, really, and putting your hand up.
But you're working for a newspaper in Central.
Yeah, it was actually the Wyler News, which is in South Australia. Yeah. But I went over to Melbourne as well, and was staying with family, and I had friends or relatives that lived there. So I sort of rang the age and got in touch with the picture editor and said I wanted to work there with them and things. And it was just being like a little bit of a 14-year-old idiot, desperate to get out of the country. So it was quite good. But yeah, that was good, and I had teachers that recognised that. So I ended up doing all our school photographs that year and things like that. So it was something I realised straight away I wanted to do as a career, but I didn't have the sales or negotiating skills or anything like that to do it. I didn't want to study because teachers sent me off on this university thing that went for about a week where I could see what students were studying in photography and visual arts and that. And it was the most precocious thing I've ever seen. Literally slideshow students sitting around, black and white photographs, one with like a woman in black, one in white, double exposure and that, and people talking about how it was disturbing and like, do you know what I mean? Just describing the art. And I was like, oh, come on, I earn more doing a wedding on a weekend than this. This is nonsense. So I wasn't interested in that route. So I started working for other companies. So I worked for people like Coca-Cola, Walt Disney Company, Sony. But I'd always end up working sort of with marketing as well as sales and shooting the odd campaign and bits and pieces behind the scenes and that. So sort of got through it that way, I think.
Do you think, because that sounds quite industrious, so you've already set the tone, you can make more money, shooting a...
Yeah, just pretty driven to get ahead and get out, and which sounds stupid because I grew up in a great area, but I think people that grow up in rural Australia, they sort of go a bit nuts and want to get out and don't realise how good it was until they leave. Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to be back?
No, not really. I go back a bit. I mean, before the plague. But no, it's you do, but it's changed and moved on. But I don't think I'd want to live there now. Central Australia.
Aussies make some good films though.
Yeah, they do.
A bunch of shit ones, But there are some really good Australian. I feel like the Australian film market is more mature than the New Zealand film market.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I don't know. I like a lot that comes out of here as well.
Huh.
I think it's like anything. You get your good and bad. But no, there is a lot of Australian stuff to me, probably the stuff I like the most. To me, they try a little bit to be too hard, too edgy, too criminally, true crime and that. It's like, well, we're not that badass, but we think we are. Just because Chopper was successful or Snowtown.
The weather's too good to be too upset.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing about Australia. Just calm down. Just
stop pretending.
Just stop pretending. Come on. Yeah. So so you've come to New Zealand. It's a different pace. It's a different, because obviously you can't talk. You're talking about working in some big companies, the Sonys and Coca-Colas and
Walt Disney.
Yep. They're big companies.
Yeah, they are, but they're more. I guess their offices in Australia and Adelaide and places like that are almost like regional outposts. But there was a really serious culture there that you learned, which was really good.
So what are you doing in those positions? What are you doing in those?
Oh, quite a few. Sales and marketing. Coca-Cola, I did a brief stint with distribution, which was managing truck drivers and things like that. So real different skills across the board. Managing people as well, which was difficult to start with. How you try to be really friendly and they're like, oh, that doesn't work. You just need to tell them what you want and it's not about you. Things like that. So, just really good fun.
And so do you think that those sort of early days of – so which comes first? I mean, I was thinking those early days where you're, learning to be a photographer, you're taking the initiative as a 14-year-old to go and spend as much time gathering as much information and knowledge as you can. You get given some great opportunities. Then you end up working and you're in distribution or whatever it is. You're having those sort of conversations. So how much of it has been about getting ahead, getting out, making some money, and how much of it has been about the craft? I
think it's evenly split, because if you're not consistent or good or commercially minded, that money won't follow or success won't follow. So I had a manager who was incredible, actually a state manager at Coca-Cola in Adelaide, and one of her things was she said, you should put about 60% into your current role and 40% into a future role, which is either shadowing someone or learning extra skills and things like that. So it sort of stuck with me that you should always not rest too much, but be a driven, ambitious turkey. No, cut that bit out. But you know what I mean? Like, you just focus on that and go forward a bit and be a little bit more business-minded about things, and a lot of creatives are.
Well, that sounds great, but then how does that, work in Christchurch?
Oh, I think there's a lot of opportunity here, don't you? Or like, I don't. Actually, I'm really not putting that properly. Ad break.
Ad break. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I would think there's more missed opportunity than there is opportunity realised in Christchurch.
Yep. Well, one thing I've noticed, or particularly in New Zealand, and it's probably the same as me where I'm from, is a lot of people who grew up here think, there's not a lot of opportunity, so they go over to Australia or another place and they don't actually see what's here. Whereas when you move to another country, you see a lot more of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because I think here where everybody knows everybody, it can be a real advantage, because if you do a good job or a bad job, everyone finds out. Whereas in Adelaide or Sydney or Melbourne, you'd need to spend an awful lot on marketing to even get your name in the door. Whereas here you work with a Bray Toyer or someone like that and she recommends you for a job and it just snowballs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is good. It's more, reference based or...
It is more reference based, but I was thinking potentially more about the other side of things with the dollars and cents with clients and that sort of thing. We don't have that. We're quite a conservative town in a conservative country. I
don't find that.
Do you not?
No.
So okay, well that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I find often that we will be pushing we have to push really hard to get outside of replicating what clients have seen their competitors doing,
right?
For example,
okay. Yep.
So there are a lot of conversations where we think about, okay, how could we do this differently? How could we approach it differently? So still doing all of the background work and understanding where the market sits and who we're talking to, who our demographics are, but then trying to approach it in a different way and getting people across the line to stand out in this country.
Yeah.
I think is really pretty challenging.
Yeah, okay. A few times you get a brief from someone and it's shots of another brand that's been done and they almost want to mimic it. But I see it as your job is to sort of interpret that or get the feel for it, but sort of do your own thing as much as you can so it does stand out, because there'd be nothing worse than something being published and looking like a blatant rip-off.
We've had a couple of clients, one which I mean, it could look like any bank ad,
Yep.
you know, but it's not for a banking
Yeah,
product.
okay. Yeah. Was that on
And,
purpose? Or?
look, we don't know, to be honest. I mean, it seems it's really. I sort of feel like sometimes the marketing that happens in New Zealand is as much about personal opinion as it is about the data behind it, informing the reason for the campaign. You know,
Okay.
because we're so small,
Mhm.
and somebody's influence at a personal level might be
Yeah.
more than a group of people who have collected all of the potentially the research behind it. But
Yeah. There is an advantage here with that, though, because you look at, I mean, I know Coca-Cola trialled cherry Coke and things here before they did anywhere else in the world. I think it was the first nation to have FPOS
yeah,
and things like that.
Yep.
So because it's a smaller market where people will pick it up, it
first
can
nation
be
to have fibre.
yeah, can be advantageous as well.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Hey, Dave, did you have a light bulb moment? Was it that moment when you were 14 that you decided?
I honestly think it was. Yeah, it was just like, oh, this, I can't believe that this could be a way to make a living. It's so much fun. You're so engaged. It's so creative. And just felt, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And you know how you're at that age when you're at school and they're saying, what do you want to do? And I thought, oh, I know what I want to do is work with people, a group of people. I'd love to travel for work. I knew that more than what the actual job was. And when I was working in those roles for quite a while, I had friends that Facebook sort of came on, and friends from school got in touch and things like that. And I was talking to a few saying I wanted to start a business. I felt it was time to go out on my own. Wasn't really sure what I'd do. And they all said, oh, photography, you've always done it. So it was like, oh, okay. It was so obvious in front of me that it was like, yeah, maybe that's what I should do. I still shoot campaigns for people. So, yeah.
And then how do you find yourself working in sort of like distribution? And then
distribution was only a project for about a year or so at Coca-Cola. What it was is they were doing a thing, getting people with different skills to take over different areas, right? So, you know, you'd be handling truck drivers with the way they hadn't been spoken to or dealt with in the past. Yep. Yeah, it was a bit more innovative.
It's quite interesting, though, as a skill set. I mean, because as a photographer, you know that half the job, I mean, yes, you need to know how the tool works, how the equipment works.
But it's dealing with people.
It's people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I know that you have a philosophy, which is that, you know, don't micromanage, you know, give people the chance to turn up and be present and give them some guidance and stuff. Do you want to talk me through a little bit of that? How do you think your past experiences have helped inform the way that you work today?
Yeah. With that, I can't stand micromanagement myself, but I don't think you get the best out of people. And it's usually when people do that, it's more an insecurity. I find that everybody turns up, they want to do their best. So it's more, if I was working with people who weren't doing their best, I'd think, oh, what have I not done? What have I not provided them with? Obviously, I've been a dickhead and put them off their game. So it's more in how you talk to them and make them feel confident. And I mean, you've hired them because you like their work. So making that really clear. And I still work with some makeup artists who will be like, oh, what do you think of this? And I'm like, no, what do you think? Are you happy with it? And just giving them that confidence.
Yep.
Yeah.
So why do you feel like, did you have a lot of that when you were coming up? Did you have a lot of support in that way, or did you wish for more support that way? So then
No, I think I was given it a lot from managers and things, and I saw what that could do to someone. Whereas I've worked with people who are completely distrusting of everybody, or not myself, but more other people, and seen it and thought, oh, they're not getting their best from their people. If you give people the chance to run and do what they want, they'll do brilliantly.
Yeah. And do you find also that when you're working on a campaign or whatever it is, whatever piece of work it is, that you know immediately when you walk on how the day is going to go? Do you know? I mean, do you have a sense of that, or do you?
Not often, but I think you can control it. Like, it's a bit like a job interview. Like this will sound unusual, but in the past I've had job interviews where it's not going well. This is when I was working for other companies, and I'd go, I think we've gone off on the wrong foot. I'm not explaining myself properly. Retract back on that. And a lot of people don't do that. They'll just cringe and go about their day. Whereas I think that you can de-escalate a mood if people are stressed or things like that, and just sort of guide it a bit. You feel more like a conductor than
Yeah, that's interesting. We always, I don't know if you noticed, but we always, especially when we're setting up or in between lighting setups or whatever, there's always music playing.
Yep.
We always have a vibe.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you set the tone that you want the day to have, right?
Yep. You do that well because it's always professional, but everyone's enjoying what they're doing, and there's a job to do, but it's good fun as well.
Don't we want to enjoy our?
Absolutely, we do.
It's too bloody short.
Yeah.
I do sort of worry about that. I mean, maybe that's
No, it's professional. It's not crazy fun. Like there's a job to be done.
Yeah.
So don't worry.
No, well, it's not that. I mean, I think, and that's probably an age thing as well, right? So, like, I don't think that anybody got into. I've said this, I don't know how many times, but nobody got into this industry to work in a 9 to 5, to be, sat in an office, in another boardroom meeting with another, whatever. Nobody got into it for that. Some of us have ended up in those roles, but nobody got into it for that. So if you can recognize that and you can turn up with that energy that that people, feel alive from, and you give them permission to be themselves and to bring their A game, then that shows up in the end result.
That's true. You can't have a bad or an off day, can you? You've got to be energetic. You've got to
be on.
Yeah, it's. I've worked with some people in the past who were like that, who might not really care as much or be that passionate about it. But when you're doing a campaign or even an ad for a client, it's like that could be 6 months worth of sales for them. You've got to be on.
You've got to be on.
Yeah.
They're paying you for it, Suck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, so do you have any kind of advertising, or was there a moment where, whether it's a TV ad or if it's a billboard or if it's a magazine or a piece of product photography, or was there a moment where you sort of saw something and you went, that it sort of stayed with you, that you had a feeling or you had something which inspired you at that moment that you thought, I want to have my own version of that?
In terms of a photograph or an advert or something like that.
Is there something, do you have a dragon that you're chasing, or a...
This where I grew up is so bleak, like in terms of landscape. It's beautiful, but there's not a lot there. And it was quite good because it gave us a level, and of course it was before smartphones and things like that, where we had to entertain ourselves or we'd get bored. So we were always doing bits and pieces, like musically or in other ways with each other, at high school and things like that, and beyond. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be inspired by music and movies as much as adverts and things like that, really. I think today too, I don't look at advertising a lot, probably try not to, because a bit of me worries that something will sink in your subconscious and you'll rip it off, or it'll look too based on that. So I try to look more, this sounds really pathetic, at art or movies or things like that, just because it's a bit different.
But also, I think
But you'll be looking at the colour grading of a movie, or
absolutely. I think you mentioned, like, when you see how it's constructed, it kind of it turns you off in a way.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
I remember as a younger person, and definitely films later on. But I remember as a kid, some of the ads that sort of stuck in my brain. There was a 30-second window to tell a story. And it had to be more than the product. And a lot of those ads you wouldn't be able to make these days because they're, you just couldn't do it,
Well, because they had a shock value factor?
Well, no. For example, there was one ad here, and I mean, who knows? Maybe it was an Australian ad that also played here, but it was for Pixie Caramel, the longer lasting chew, and it had a guy who's in a clearly South American, potentially Mexican prison, with 8 or 9 prison guards standing around, and one Caucasian man who's smarter than everyone, who they ask any last requests. And he says a Pixie Caramel, and he stands there and it's called, just chews it, and everybody falls asleep because
30 seconds.
Well, because they're waiting for him to finish his chocolate bar, which is the longer lasting chew.
Never seen
that. They
that
all
one.
fall asleep, and then he jumps over the wall and escapes. You couldn't make it today.
Yeah.
You could not. We'll post a link.
Be offensive to prisoners.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just, it anyway, we've moved on, and that's a good thing that we've moved on. But I remember the ad to this day.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up if it's around.
Yeah, I'll find it for you.
Yeah. Mine, I think a lot of my memories for things like that were ads that would take you somewhere else. Like I noticed a lot of aviation ads did that, like Qantas and things like that, even though they were a bit heartstring sentimental, that didn't really work on me, but more the imagery of it. And a lot of Coca-Cola ads I really liked.
Well, Coca-Cola doesn't sell a drink; it sells a feeling.
Yeah, right? True. But more the the giant beach ball and things like that that were probably when we were getting into television as kids.
Yeah. What about films? Do you have any films or images, or you said artwork or fashion?
Yeah, I think a lot of things like that I look at, and I know they're advertising as well, but I look more at. I find that sort of the fashion work goes ahead of everything else. So you'll look at colour grading and see things come in a certain style of lighting, and that a couple of years later you see it in everything else. Whereas now that window's getting shorter and shorter, but it's sort of, I don't know, you see the best of the best pushing their game and what they're bringing in, and it's quite inspiring. Yeah. But movies, I don't know, I like a lot. Yeah. But at the moment, if it's got A24 in front of it, I'll probably love it and rave about it.
Yeah, it's good. That used to be HBO, now it's A24.
Yeah. Doing so much good work.
So much good work.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot. Hey, what the heck was I going to ask you? It was going to be...
I don't know, Tim.
Well, I've got the answer, Dave. I just needed a moment. It's, have you had a piece of work that you've worked on in the last couple of years or something over your career which, has really, you've added a lot of value to and you've been particularly proud of?
Oh, I can think of quite a few. It's hard to think of something I've done, though, because I always see it as a team effort. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many shoots I'm on that there's 20 people involved, and you've got an art director who's really telling you what to do. So you feel more like a camera operator. You're doing what you want as well, but it's more fitting in.
Yep.
I find that quite odd, and it's not a modesty thing, but occasionally I get people say to me, "Oh, that's a great photo," and I don't think, "Oh, yeah, I did that." I think, for example, the ads we were on recently, it's what you've put together, your talent, your lighting, your set. You're just capturing what's already there.
But that's not me either. That's also
creative. And,
Kirk Flaum or the talent or whomever it is. There are a whole bunch of people. So I think we all take credit equally.
Yeah, it just seems odd. And then once something is released and you are allowed to release it, quite often I'll get a message from a makeup artist or a stylist who says, "Oh, is it okay if I get rights to use this on my website?" And I'm like, "Oh God, we all did it together. You go for it if you're allowed." Do you know what I mean? It's not as you don't feel ownership in a way.
Yep. Yeah. And then I mean that's also
did that answer the question?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it sort of danced around
luck.
it. Yeah, what was that, Dave? What the hell is that? No, what about that though? So as far as rights are concerned, or NDAs or any of that kind of stuff, I mean, it gets tricky, right? So
it does. My problem with NDAs is remembering what's in them and what I've signed an NDA for. So I tend to appear very aloof and evasive because I just assume I'm not allowed to talk about anything, which feels odd because I've got people I catch up with who say, what have you been shooting lately? And I'll just say product or fashion, and I just don't want to give details. It feels odd, but
smart move.
Yeah, and I just think we all know each other, and for me it's almost more protecting an agency you're working with, because you don't want to say to someone else what clients they're working with in case they approach them more. Do you know what I mean? It just feels more confidentiality.
There are some people that we work with, obviously we work with a huge number of subbies depending on what the job is. And some of them really get it, and we don't talk shop. We do a lot of small talk, but we don't talk shop. And other people really want to know. They really want to know what you've been working on.
And it can be genuine, but it just feels a little bit inquisitive, doesn't it?
I mean, I think it's different if you're talking about a technique, or if you're talking about, I lit this in a different way, or I decided to go like that, put this much negative space in, or whatever it was, as part of a broader treatment. But I think when you're talking about, the who's and, name dropping, I think it becomes a little bit. But it is difficult. And what about sharing stuff on social media? When you do you own the rights to the final image, or is that the client?
Yeah, often you do, or it depends on the job. But I feel funny about social media lately. It feels like idiots arguing with idiots, and I know it can be good. But I remember Facebook when it was friends from school got on, and you'd see their renovations or their children, and it was interesting. Now I just see dumb ads, and I'm largely over it. And I find Instagram's coming the same way. I used to find it quite inspiring because I'd see what people I knew were up to and look at what they were creating. But lately, it just feels like it's a lot of ads, and even when it is people you know, it feels like ads as well. I guess there's an element of how we show things that's become performative, like we've all snapped into it without knowing.
Yep.
And it's really put me off. But also I'll have friends who will say things like, oh, did you see the photo I put on for this and that? And I'm like, no, but I've seen 1,000 ads.
Yeah.
So it just feels unusual. I'm not seeing the people I actually follow. I'm just seeing other things.
Well, that's also
paid content, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's I forget what the click through is. It's something like 1.3 organic search. So 1.3% of your database will see any organic post.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's not a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing.
Yeah.
So,
I hardly post though. Like I put stories on in that, and they're probably, I don't know, just behind the scenes or things like that that are a little bit oblique. But it's just not, I don't know, it's not my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. That's good. Hey, what do I suppose when I think about how we've worked together, so you have been one of the many people, you know, so we might have a break, you name it. We've got a whole bunch of people doing their thing, right? Very often you'll turn up, I'll see that you're there. They go, oh, hey, Dave's here. But that's kind of how it is with everyone else. You are pretty effortless. You just turn up, you know what the brief is. If you've got any questions, you come and ask.
Yep.
And you output the work and everybody goes, yay. You know, you get it.
Yep.
Right? Is that typical? Is that typically how you work, or are you a control freak secretly? How does it work, Dave?
I am a bit of a control freak. I think a lot of what it is though is I don't know. It's just sort of doing your job efficiently. Like I know some people, you turn up to a job and you're done in a few minutes. You can be, whereas I know other people that'll to justify what they charge will spend 3 hours setting up lights, testing it when it's something they know how to do in 10 minutes. That in a way you can be efficient, and that is part of your usefulness. Yeah, getting in quite quickly and getting it done. But I think also I know when I've got something, whereas when I first started out, there were times I'd be taking a photograph of someone and just go on too long for, a couple of hundred shots, and it was always the first or second shot or the last shot that I had it in. So just getting that confidence to know when you had it really. But yeah, more, I think doing your job in the background, getting it done. Yeah.
Look, I 100% agree. The number of times where we have done, I don't know, whether it's a product shot or stuck something on turntable or I don't know, whatever it is, and you spend the time up front and you go, what does the frame look like? How do we improve it? Put some stuff in, no, take it out. What do we need in here? What is the brief? Are we putting logos? Are we putting copy over the front of it? Is there graphic overlay? Whatever it is. And then by the time we actually shoot it, it's really short and it's really efficient.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets to go home.
Yeah. Well, that with you working on TVCs doing stills, you've done that already. So my thing, I'm almost watching over your shoulder, and while you're filming the shots and then it's my turn to take shots. It's already perfect. Everything's already worked out, so it can be quite efficient.
Well, you also don't want it to be totally different to what the TVC is.
Absolutely. It has to fit in and be the right temperature and everything, color temperature.
So how much of that is because you get that, right? So you want it to be the best it can be, but you also understand that this is the project.
Yep.
Where do you get precious and where do you not? Do you know what I mean? Like some people turn up and throw their toys because they want what they want.
Yep.
Other people don't. And usually the toy throwers are the ones who we don't work with.
Yeah, true. I don't think I could work with them either. I'm even though I've probably been that in the past. I think that it is more if you have a different opinion, there's a director, someone's always the boss or in charge, so you have to do as you're told. You're effectively a camera operator. But I find you can get what you think as well and present that, but not make a song and dance about it. Yeah.
How do you add the best value?
I think by just doing the best job and taking it. This sounds like, or not taking your time, slowing down massively, but just really knowing when you've got it and really not rushing yourself. I think if you're ever in a real stressed mood or frantically under the pump, you can wind it back a bit and really make sure it's good. Yeah.
And then that also affects the whole environment, right?
Yeah. Or maybe you should keep that internal, but just know when you've got it, but just try that little bit harder, not just thinking, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had another lady, Claire Mackey, on the ad break, and she is the unofficial voice of Google Australia.
Oh, wow.
And so she has done all of the Google voice work for the last 15 years.
Yep.
She's now based in Christchurch. She lives here with her Kiwi family. And she would say, because I said, how do you get excited about that, 15 years on? And she said she's genuinely nervous because she cares about the output, And so, like, being present, doesn't matter how many times. I mean, I've done the same types of jobs hundreds of times, but it's about turning up and going, what does the on-screen talent need from me?
Yeah.
What do these people need in order for us to give them the best product? And I think that is actually, I suppose if we go back to our earlier statement, which was that you've got to know the equipment, but it's the people, right? The people who turn up on the day, and it might not be perfect, but you've got to work with what you've got.
So true. Being nervous, though, I also see as a positive. Like, because I think if you're not a little bit nervous or anxious about a shoot, you don't care. You're just dialing it in. It's like people who say they're nervous going to a job interview. It's like, well, if you weren't nervous, you'd look like Jeffrey Dahmer. You'd be too calm, wouldn't you? You'd be, a little bit too serious. Sorry.
It got dark.
I keep thinking of that, though. Do you know what I mean? Like with
Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh, no, not Jeffrey Dahmer. I have had meetings with people, interviewed people where it's almost performance, where they're trying to be so professional and serious that you just leave thinking, oh gosh, that was a bit odd.
Yeah.
You didn't really see what they were actually like. Yeah.
Or clients who don't necessarily know what they want, but are trying to take a step towards doing better.
Yeah. That can be fun, though.
Oh, it can be great fun. It can be dangerous.
Yeah, it can be. It can be frightening.
Have you had any of those where you've gone, oh shit, I wish I had avoided this one?
I've had some where they push it in a direction. I think, I don't know whether everyone's going to like this. So you sort of cover your bases and get something a bit more conventional. But then they quite often go with that, and it has been good. It's more just I don't know. I think when you work with brands, you get to know pretty much their marketing DNA and what's coming up with campaigns and things. You know what they like, what they don't like, what the board like, what they don't like. So it can be a little bit touch and go at times when you're trying to push it in a new direction.
See how much risk appetite they have.
Yeah, and often their risk appetite's better than mine, but I'll cover both bases just to make sure. Yeah, because the worst thing would be like, oh, we can't use that. We need to do a reshoot.
Yeah, who pays for that?
Yeah.
Hey, what about relationships? So how important are the relationships both with yourself and clients or agents?
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
If you meet someone you're not that aligned with, I always think, they probably won't be happy with me. You think if there's something where it's not a mesh, there'll be something along the process that I'll annoy them or they'll annoy me. So they would be better suited to someone else.
Yep.
Yeah. It can be often that, more a cultural fit or...
That's just experience though, do you think?
Yeah. Whereas when you're young and starting out, you can think, oh no, I missed out on that project. I would have loved to have done it. But there was a reason they didn't pick you. Maybe you weren't the right person or at that right stage in your career.
When you're older, you go, oh, I dodged that bullet.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah. But I think that goes both ways, right? So I think exactly
they dodged a bullet too, probably at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I really genuinely believe that all brands and the people that they work with, they are at a time and place and whatever their brand story is, and you are in a time and place with whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you don't align, you're going to have friction.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes if everyone's big enough and to overcome that and find the common ground, then magic can happen.
Yep.
But more often than not, you're just not in the right time and place.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So, I mean, we've had clients in the past who we have accepted, we've accepted the work, they've accepted the quote, the parameters. We've got into the project and gone, hey, we're not going to carry on. It's not
a good fit. Or...
It's not a good fit. We're continually bending over backwards because the expectation is not aligned.
Yeah, okay.
And that can only end in a bad time.
Yeah.
You know?
Did it take you a long time to get to that point?
Absolutely. You know, I think also because I started out as a freelance camera operator 20 whatever years ago.
Yep.
It,
quite old.
but the thing was, every job was the last job, you know. So and you went into a blind panic. You didn't have work for three weeks ahead. You didn't know, and then the phone rings.
Yeah.
Every time it worked out, and you picked up the phone and you had a coffee and whatever. But I think, you know, you've got to get out of that mentality, which is chase the security, chase the financial security, and then shift it to, how does this help my brand grow? How does this help? You know, how is the value that I've learned over the last however many decades? How can I translate that into each job? You know, so I think there's something in that, and it goes both ways. You know? Some clients don't want to work with us. We don't want to work with some clients. That's okay. You know,
it's sort of like I find that when you're talking with other photographers and people where they talk about competition or who's your competition, and I don't really see it that way. I think I would suit some style, and if I was another person doing a campaign, I'd pick another, you know, photographer who'd suit that. It's not personal. 100%. It's just about who fits the job.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Excellent. Well, Dave, there's been a lot of wisdom in here.
I hope so.
There has been a lot of wisdom. It's been good. Do you have a favorite Ruffells moment? Do you have a thing, or has it all just been shit?
This sounds really evasive, which it's not, but I like the cohesion and the mood that you create on set, that you direct. I think it's very good, because there is that balance between having fun and doing a great job, but you create an environment that is pretty incredible, that I haven't seen with lots of other people. Yeah, it's
excellent.
And I've also seen it close up when everyone's focusing on something you're recording, where it's not going how you want and you're quite stressed, or I can pick up on it slightly. I'll be, oh, that's what I'd be thinking under that. But you don't show it in a way that other people pick up on that much. Whereas as me doing the stills, I'm like, oh, that's what I'd be thinking. I can pick up on it, but you don't show that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, which is good, because, you know, if you do that, then everyone thinks, oh, we're not doing the right thing. They don't really see it. Whereas you just steer it in a way you want it to go.
You don't want it to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. If you throw your toys and leave.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I think we've all seen that, right?
Yeah, I have.
We've all been part of that.
Or people just give up.
Where it falls apart.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned also, when you see people on their phones, you know, you've got to redirect it or guide it in. I think sometimes, in the past maybe, people will see the way that we work and go, I think they sometimes mistake that they think we're maybe a little bit laid back.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Or they, but maybe they don't see, the reason we're relaxed is because we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
And if we're not relaxed, everyone else will be stressed.
We'll be stressed.
Yeah,
and
that's
when
true.
you have a stressy environment,
now
the talent are second guessing themselves, so they're not bringing a performance.
Yeah,
you know,
that's so true.
You know, or the people designing the website are stressing out because they didn't like, you know, it's you know. Hey, Dave, you have a couple of terribly out-of-date websites.
I do.
Do you want us to mention what they are, or do you want to go and hide in the sand?
Can I fix them up first, and you can do a link at the bottom?
We will put the link at the top.
They're both great websites, but this sounds really stupid. I have not updated them for a very long time, to the fact they look like they're from the 80s. But I've also been so busy I haven't needed to, so it feels odd. Yeah, but I also don't think you can look at your own work objectively, so I almost need to email them to someone and go, you pick.
Okay, so what I'm going to do in that case is we are going to put a link to your websites.
As a threat.
As a threat, that's right. Yep. But with a disclaimer which says, don't take this work as current.
Thank you. I mean, you've updated yours.
Well, of course. Yeah. You know, you're only as busy as you want to be.
Yeah, I'd almost want to do have you seen Sons & Co.'s website?
Yeah.
How it's just...
It's a permanently website coming.
I think that's cool. No, it's not even that. It's just Sons & Co. Littleton's...
Right. Well, that's...
London Street, Littleton, and that's it.
That's updated. It
Yeah,
used to be new website coming.
Oh, okay.
So that's now the new website.
Yeah, I can't believe how many people work in design and website building who don't have a website because they're too busy. I kind of like it.
But how many builders, have incomplete houses?
I don't know.
Loads.
Oh, okay.
All of them.
Yeah,
They've
yeah. Or
written out-
architects with bad houses.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there you go.
So there we go. There we go. Okay, so we will put a link to that. Thank you very much for coming along.
Yeah,
Really
thank you. It was good
appreciated
fun.
And look forward to seeing you in the future.
Likewise.